Hello and welcome to another video tutorial by Azure Academy. So in this particular tutorial, I'm going to be walking you through how you can eliminate password attacks and leaks of credentials in your applications and data pipelines on Microsoft Azure, and doing so by using Azure Managed Identities. So that's what we're going to be covering in this particular topic. It is a very important topic because a lot of people that are developing applications that are sensitive to password, credentials, and all those things do run into issues with this, and it's a frequently requested topic. So that's why I am taking time to create this particular video series to walk you through what it's about, how to use it, and how it can benefit your organization and your project. So let's get into what we're going to be talking about. But before we do that, if you are new to my channel, please, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and click on the notification icon so that when I have future content similar to this one, you can benefit from getting the notification right away and coming to check it out. And also I have some social media accounts that you can follow on Twitter, on GitHub, and you can follow me to see some of the content that I am posting, and if it's relevant to you, I think you could benefit from that as well. Now, I am very particular about developing systems that leverage data, write to data, store data, process data in batch, in real time, and all other methodologies. So I have a course on Udemy that covers how to do this using open source software. So if you're interested in that particular concept or topic, please feel free to take a look at my course in the description, and you should be able to leverage that to learn and give me your feedback once you have completed the course. So thank you for checking it out in advance. And of course, you can check out my website at easyacademy.com for upcoming content and recent events that I am participating in. So for this particular video series, we're going to be covering what managed identities are and some of the benefits for using it. And then we will cover in a subsequent video some of the differences between service principals and managed identities. And then, since managed identities have two flavors, we'll take a look at the two flavors, system assigned and user assigned managed identities. And then we'll also take a look at some of the environments that support managed identities on Microsoft Azure. So what are some of these environments where you can run and configure managed identities from which you can now authenticate to other platform services on Azure that can use managed identities to authenticate the system or the application. And then, of course, we'll cover those services that support authentication using managed identities, and then I will walk you through how you can use it in your applications or data pipelines to make things easy for you. So we'll also take a look at some of these SDKs, like the ones in .NET Core, in C#, Java, JavaScript, and Python. So those are some of the SDKs we're going to be taking a look at in the video series. So I encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that when these video series are being posted, you can take a look at it and you can leverage it. And if you think it's beneficial to you and someone else that could benefit from this, please feel free to share the content with them and encourage them to subscribe as well. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to dive into why managed identities are important, but before that, I'm going to walk you through a brief analogy or metaphor so that you can get a concept of what I'm talking about in this particular concept. So if you take a look at this particular slide here, this is something that we still do today. So you can use a 4-digit PIN or something like that, like a password, to authenticate yourself to gain access to an environment or a vault or storage device or something like that. So currently today we can do that. We can also use other tokens like a badge or driver's license or something like that to identify ourselves. But this is something that can be easily forged if somebody has access to this, or if somebody can see what your PIN number is or your password is, they can copy that and they can impersonate you. So this is not something that you want to do, because doing so allows you to be vulnerable. Now, if you take a look at some of these other advanced systems now, we're able to use our face to identify ourselves on our phones and mobile devices and computer devices. We can also use our retina to identify who we are, or our fingerprints to identify who we are. So similarly, managed identities provides you with the same capabilities, so that you don't have to manage the passwords or any other identifying tokens to use this to authenticate yourself, to get authorization to the Azure system you're trying to gain access to. So this is what managed identities provide, because you're able to use mechanisms similar to biometrics, just like fingerprints and retinal scans, to gain access to the environment without having to hard code your password in the application, which can lead to several vulnerabilities. So this is one of the reasons why I strongly believe that this is a concept that people have to understand, because it is very foundational to what we're going to be doing in other video tutorials or courses that I'm creating, where we are going to be accessing data platforms, and we don't want to be doing that by hard coding credentials in the application. We want to make sure that our data pipelines or our data driven applications are using managed identities on Microsoft Azure, so that passwords are not necessary as a mechanism to authenticate to get access to the resources that we need. So now, why do we need managed identities? This is a very important question. So these are some of the reasons. Now, it is very hard to keep track of passwords. You have to continually rotate, change the password, and you're always worried about someone else that is not supposed to see the password gaining access to the password and then using it to impersonate your application or that particular person. So with managed identities, we don't have to do this. On Azure, we can simply configure the environment, and the application is able to gain access without any kind of password that is being stored in the configuration. So if you use passwords, it makes the system less secure. So with managed identities, you don't have to worry about that, because you can authenticate without having to hard code the password. Also, using passwords makes it very complex to maintain. It just adds additional overhead to the entire process of maintenance, because this has to be rotated, like I stated in the first reason. And then there is potential for negative consequences if the system is breached by one of these very dedicated hackers. You can get into serious problems. It could lead to damage, reputation, loss of revenue, and loss of value for the company, and just trust in the customer can be eroded seriously when that happens. So managed identities provides you with a mechanism of avoiding all these problems by simply configuring your environments to authenticate with the upstream or downstream systems you're trying to gain access to. Now, for data-driven applications or data-driven data processing pipelines, this is very crucial to have this kind of mechanism in place, because there are just so many moving components, and you don't want to have to worry about putting the right password here. Sometimes you may miss one step, and that could break the entire pipeline because you don't have the access, or the credential has particularly expired. But if we have managed identities set up for like data processing pipelines, then it makes it very easy for us to configure that managed identity, and we don't have to use any kind of passwords that could make the system vulnerable to regression defects and all those other functionality issues that you don't want in your business. So now that we have covered some of the risk of using passwords, let's take a look at the benefits of using managed identities. So like I said, there is no credentials involved, so there's nothing to manage. Now, there is a joke that says, that credentials and passwords are like underwears, and we don't have to share it with anyone, and we should be changing them often. Well, with managed identities, you don't have to worry about that. So you just configure the identity and you just forget about it, like my Italian friends will say. And then, because of how simple it is very easy for us to set up the application or the pipeline to use it. So we don't have to worry about all these maintenance issues that are associated with hard-coded tokens and passwords in our application. And then it is possible for us to use the same identity for multiple portions of the application. So this is very easy for us to do. If you have an identity that you want to be able to use across multiple pipelines or applications. So it makes it very easy for us to do so. Now, there's no additional cost in using this. This is something that is provided by Azure Active Directory, so you can use it in your application without any additional cost for setting it up or for using it. Now, peace of mind comes with this, efficiencies comes with it, and it just gives you a much more secure system, overall. So coming up next in this video series, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into service principals and how that is different from managed identities. And we're going to be covering the two types of managed identities that we have: the system assigned identities and the user assigned identities. What are different and what are similar among those two. Then we have environments that support managed identities, such as virtual machine scale sets, Azure functions. So we're going to be covering a whole list of all these environments from which you can configure your managed identity to use to authenticate against something else in Azure, like a blob storage, key vault, and things like that. And then after we talk about the environments that support managed identities, then we're going to be covering some of those services like blob storage, key vault, data lake store, that support you using managed identities to authenticate and gain access to those resources on Azure. So this will be the list of resources that support using managed identities for authentication. And then I will cover how you can use managed identities in your applications and data pipelines, and we'll take a look at some of the SDKs that are available for us to do this in .NET Core, in Java, JavaScript, and Python. So I would pick one of these resources and walk you through how you can set up your identity, the environment, as well as access to the resource, and then use it to authenticate easily without any kind of password. So we'll do the first one with password to show you the differences, and then we'll compare that with the environment that does not use the password, and you will see how efficient, how secure, and how simple it is to do so. So like always, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. If you think this content is beneficial, click on the notification icon. And if you have not signed up for one of my courses, please check out my course on Udemy and subscribe to the course and let me know what you think and give me your feedback. Now, if there's any particular content that you would like to see in this series or in a subsequent video, please put that as a question in the comment section, and I will take a look at that feedback and use that for upcoming content creation. So I really want to thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next videos. Thank you very much.